Hey guys, it's Shanna with Shanna's Wire Wrap Jewelry. I'm going to be showing you how to make this really beautiful copper pendant. It's one single piece of wire for the jump ring and the swirl, and then we're just going to have fun wrapping some gemstones and beads and crystals onto this. This will be perfect for Valentine's Day, gift to your mom and friends. Let's go ahead and get started. So the tools you need to make this pendant are some copper wire. We're going to use 14 gauge. You can use 16 gauge, but I recommend 14. We need the 26 gauge to wrap all the little beads on. You can use 24 gauge. You need some flush cutters, chain nose pliers, needle nose pliers, a ruler, a steel block and a hammer, and then of course a variety of little gemstones, beads, crystals, and in coordinating colors. And you can even use a little mix of some metal beads that I'm going to use today. So I'm going to move everything out of the way so we can get started. You're going to start with flush cutting the end of your wire. Use the flat end, not this open end of your flush cutters, to just snip off the end so it's nice and flat. And then I want you to use the small part of your needle nose pliers to bend in slightly, kind of a little L shape. This is going to be the top of our pendant here. So I've explained before how I want you to use your wire to wrap it around your tool, not the other way around. If you are trying to use your tool to make that curve, you're going to end up with little marks on your wire. So if you can, hold it carefully and wrap your wire around the tool. That way you won't end up with any marks on your wire. You can use your chain nose pliers to flatten that out a bit. This is where your chain is going to end up going through on your pendant. So that loop is about the size of your fingertip, just the very tip of it. And then I want you to use the very small end of your chain nose pliers and bend this wire up towards that loop on the left-hand side. And then flatten that down. We'll be able to adjust this a little bit more later. Okay, we're going to start making our heart, and we're going to make this left-hand side. So I'll kind of put this in front of us so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So we're going to make this left-hand side of the heart. And I always use my thumb and kind of push where I want, and I just keep my tool in one location. I'm not trying to use my tool to bend the wire. I'm holding it in one place just to stabilize it, and then I'm going to use my hands and fingers and kind of bend that around to get the shape of a heart. See that? So that part of the heart from the top to where we want to do the bottom is about the equal height of 2 fingers, and that's a good way to measure it. So you can hold it at the bottom of your 2 fingers and then bend this wire underneath. And I'm turning pretty hard. This 14 gauge wire is stiff and it's a bit challenging to work with, but I love the look of this heavy pendant with that 14 gauge wire. So if you can do it, if you want to practice with 16 gauge, then maybe that's where you want to start. Okay, look what I've done here. If I've held with the thickest part of my tool right at the bottom of my heart, then I can bend this back and create a nice little shape for the bottom of the heart. And then take this left-hand side and pull it straight out and it's going to have kind of a similar effect on that side. See that? I never really measure on this part, but I want this wire to come up around and maybe another double the height of it and flush cut the end up here. Maybe not quite double. So from there we're going to create that swirl. So it's going to use up all of that excess wire. So we're done with that 14 gauge wire. We can set that aside. Again, when we're making this swirl, I don't want you to take the tool to try to shape it by turning and pushing on the wire as we go. I want you to hold it in just one place and keep it there the whole time. Use your fingers as you're holding with your tool. When I let go, I re-hold it back in the same position just to readjust, and then pulling the wire around the tool, I work it until I get it into the shape that I want. And I probably made that look really easy. You may have to practice with that for a while. And then I just work on the shape of the heart until it's consistent on both sides. It would be super cute as well, even if it wasn't a very symmetrical heart, but I don't want it too much bigger on this side. So I might take my chain nose pliers and pull this swirl in towards that side and pull it in, readjust it. Being careful not to scar your wire as you're turning it in any way. But that looks really close. I like the way that looks. I'm happy with it. If you've noticed on this finished pendant, it has this reflective look, and that's accomplished by hammering the wire. So what we'll do is we'll take the face of this pendant and place it face down on our steel block. And we're going to hammer in a fashion where it's really heavy in this area and a little lighter down towards the base. So if you notice here, I've hammered heavy through here, but it's more round here, but it's a nice gradient. It's not real heavy here, and it doesn't stop and just round there. We've got a nice grade. Okay, so just work it. Make sure it's face down and hammer away. You can hammer pretty heavy in this area and then lighten up on that hammering as you get towards the bottom. I'm going to push pause as I finish here. I'm hammering really heavy up on the top, and I ease up on the bottom. You see what I've done here? And this is the back, so when we look at the front here, we've got this beautiful reflective look to the pendant, and it actually adds a ton of strength. Once it's hammered, it's really hard to bend it or change the curvature of it. All right, let's do this on the other side. The reason we really need to do it to the other side as well, even though we're wrapping this, is because since it's round and we're wrapping wire around it with beads, we want it to stay in the right position. So when it kind of creates this rectangle on the wire, as you're wrapping the wire around, it holds it into place better. So place your pendant face down again, and let's work this other side. And I'm going to push pause while I finish this up a bit. Remember, same on this side as we're hammering to make it heavy in the middle and then a little lighter on the end so we don't have just a solid line of hammered and not hammered. A little lighter here, heavier in the middle. That looks really good to me. I want to do a little bit of hammering to the end of this piece right here. So place this face down. Not pretty. I love it. And we want this to be slightly open here, so as we're working with our wire, we'll have a space to pull our wire through to wrap it a little easier. Okay, we're going to get our 26 gauge wire and measure out at least 4 feet, if not 5, but it gets a little hard to work with such a long piece of wire, but we do need quite a bit to wrap all of our beads and gemstones on. So let's see, I think it's about 4 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to hold the end of this wire towards the bottom of the pendant and hold it with your left hand. Of course, if you're left-handed, you might want to flip-flop the whole thing, but I'm going to show it to you how I make it. And then I want you to wrap this through several times. And since we've hammered it, it doesn't want to flip around as easily. I'm going to set out some beads to start with. I'm going to set out 3 larger beads and a couple of smaller beads. 1, I'm going to start by wrapping a small bead on the bottom, and we're going to space these out all the way around. And if you hold with that bead with your 2 fingers on your left hand side, just hold it on top of that wire and then wrap it around a couple times. And let's alternate with a larger bead. String that through. Hold it in place with your left hand, pull all the slack out and wrap that around a few times. And this part takes a little while. If you wish to fast forward through some of this, you can, because this really doesn't require a tutorial. This is just going to be up to your own creativity to wrap it as you please. But I like having this foundation of a few beads to start, and I'll show you why, because it kind of helps hold all of the other ones in place. So I wrap that around a few times, and let's finish it up, I think just with one more, even though I pulled out a couple of extra. This seems to be spaced on there quite well. Hold that on with my 2 fingers on the left side and wrap that around a few times. From here, it is just whatever you want to do. Take a look at this a little bit. I have another one here as well. I have these first beads that I've placed, and then I fill it in with everything else, and I kind of even out some copper ones here and here so they're spaced out evenly, and some other blue ones spaced out evenly. So just play with it as you go. I string several on at a time, maybe about 3 or so at a time. But this is just a personal preference, and just play with it. I don't really think you can mess it up. Just have fun picking your beads. The only thing to watch for really is just making sure that if you have a green one here, you kind of want another one here and here and here. You just want to space that evenly around. So our first wrap, and then wrap it around a couple times and string on a few more beads. Silver, nice blue, a couple crystals, another gemstone, When I'm done getting it through, I always wrap it around just a few times. It secures it into place so I can leave it set there while I start adding other beads. Maybe sometimes you just want just a couple. You're going to want to have some exposed wire on top that doesn't have beads on it. It really adds a lot of interest. If you look at this one again, there's a lot of exposed wire. And sometimes I've even wrapped the wire around the gemstones. We'll just keep working this. If you wish to follow along and watch me, feel free. Otherwise, you can fast forward to the end a bit. I'm going to use a few of these little metal beads in there. This is coming along really nicely. At this point, I just kind of want to fill in any of the sides just to bulk it up just a little bit more. And I wrap some of my extra wire around so we have some exposed wire. Seed beads, another metal bead. Oh, I see another spot down there. I want to put some, I think I want some clear ones. Where? Oops. What other color? Looks like we need a metal bead up there. Maybe one of these tan ones. That's an opal gemstone. Oh yeah, look at that. I think I want one more kind of around this side. Maybe a few. Looks like I need some green. There we go. All right. Yeah, I'm liking the way that's working out. I'm going to work this wire down a little bit. You want some of that exposed wire, and I want to put a little bit more right down in here. Maybe another one of these metal beads. A little bit more green, kind of green. How about another crystal? I like the crystals because it reflects light. Look at that. I think we're done. I think if I add too much more, it's just going to start looking gaudy. But I do want it to work some of this excess wire around. I mean, you can even take some of it and wrap it around and around some of these beads. I'm going to take some and wrap it around this gemstone a bit. Look how nice that is. Get down and around. Let's take it around this gemstone. Kind of hold the top of it so that wire doesn't pop off there. Just want to pop off. Okay, I'm gonna get this. All right, get it around the base of it a little bit more. It wants to stay in place. The copper is so pretty. I just love the natural look of it. See how we kind of have the wrapping around that gemstone? I just love that. And press everything up. That's probably a little bit more than we even need. I kind of went crazy with that one. But it's still really cool. It's going to look great as a statement necklace. And if we take this wire and wrap it around the end here several times around that bare wire of the pendant, just to finish it off. And then we can take our flush cutters and snip the end off really close there, and then get your chain nose pliers and press the tip of that down so it doesn't come up and poke anybody when they're wearing it. If you have wire on the other end, you can do the same on that end. Just kind of wrap it through a few times. And then just snip the end of that off. Always flatten down the end of that wire. And then let's pull this in. You might have to push it down a bit just so it kind of springs back. There you go. That one has a lot more wrapped beads than this other one, but it's going to look awesome. What do you think? Something you're going to do, or are you just going to watch me? Hopefully you'll join in and make some of these. I would love to see a link to your finished product if you're able to share that in comments below. Please subscribe. I would love to show you some other things that I love to make, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.